In this video, I'm going to share a couple of examples of application problems that you might see in this section. So this is corresponding to the free OpenStax College Algebra textbook, section 2.3. So number 1, Mark and Don are planning to sell each of their marble collections at a garage sale. If Don has one more than 3 times the number of marbles Mark has, how many does each boy have to sell if the total number of marbles is 113? So this is an example of a linear model that we can write for this. So Don and Mark are the two people that we want to represent the number of marbles they have. So Don has one more than 3 times the number Mark has. So one more than means 1 plus, and 3 times the number Mark has, so we could do it like that if we want, 3 times m, which is m for the number that Mark has. That means Mark, since we're comparing to Mark, we said Mark has m marbles. All right, now we know how many Don has, and we know how many Mark has. We want to know if the total is 113, how many do each of them have? So total, that indicates that you want to add them up. So Don plus Mark is equal to 113. And now we're just going to solve this problem. So 3m plus m, we want to combine like terms. So we'll have 1 plus 4m equals 113. Then to solve, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides so that we can isolate the m. So we get 112. And we divide by 4. And so that will give us m equals 28. Okay, so we can't just say m equals 28 and be done. We have to make sure we answer the question. So it says, how many does each boy have to sell? So we need to take the m equals 28 and look at what we have represented for Don and Mark and figure out how many each one has. So m represents Mark. So m is 28. So Mark has 28 marbles. And then to figure out Don, we just have to plug in 28 for the m. So Don would have 1 plus 3 times 28. 3 times 28 is 84, plus 1 is 85. So Don has 85 marbles. And you can check that 85 plus 28 is equal to 113, so those two numbers would work out. Okay, so that's just one example. There are many variations of problems that you can see, but hopefully you can take the idea in this example and apply it to some that you will see in this section. Number 2, the perimeter of a triangle is 35 inches. The second side is 1 inch longer than twice the first. The third side is 1 inch shorter than 4 times the first. Find the length of the 3 sides. Okay, so first of all, you need to remember that a perimeter is just adding up all the sides. So whatever, if you have a triangle, then you have 3 sides, you just add them all up. If you have a rectangle, you have 4 sides, you add them all up. There are formulas that you can memorize, but I think there's really no point if you just remember the perimeter is adding up all the sides. So I'm going to draw a triangle here because we have a triangle. Okay, and then I'm just going to label the sides. So actually maybe I should make it to where it's clear one is shorter than the other. Okay, so that would be the short side, and then this would be the longest side. Okay, so the second side is 1 inch longer than twice the first. Okay, so I'm going to make this the first side, this the second side. I just want to be really clear how I'm labeling these. Okay, the second side is 1 inch longer than twice the first. So the second side is 1 inch longer, So 1 more than twice the first. So that's 2x. We're comparing to the first. Whatever you're comparing to, that's what you're going to make your variable be. So we're comparing to the first side. So that means we're making the first side be just the plain variable, which is x. Okay. And then the next sentence we have is the third side is 1 inch shorter than 4 times the first. So again, they're comparing to the first side, so it makes sense that that's just x. 1 inch shorter than means you're going to take 1 away from whatever you have. So 4 times the first minus 1. Okay, so now we have all of our sides labeled. That's usually the hardest part for students, is when they're reading it, trying to figure out how to set it up. So now that we have the sides labeled, what we want to do is we want to add them all together and set it equal to 35 because that was the perimeter. So the first side is x, so x plus the second side is 1 plus 2x plus the third side is 4x minus 1 is equal to the perimeter of 35. Notice that I have opposites here. I have a 1 and a positive 1, so those are going to zero out. And now I'm going to combine my like terms. I have a 1x, a 2x, and a 4x. So that's going to end up giving me 7x equals 35. And then to solve, I need to divide by 7. And so then I get x equals 5. So again, don't just stop there. It asks us to find the lengths of the 3 sides. So the first side, since that was x, that's just going to be 5 inches. The second side, we'd have to plug 5 in for the x. So we have 1 plus 2 times 5, so that would be 11 inches. And then again, we'd plug in the 5 for the x here, so we'd get 20 minus 1, which is 19 inches. And you can verify if you add these up, you would get 35 inches. Okay. Number 3. The length of a rectangle is 3 less than 4 times the width. The perimeter is 34. Find the length and width. So very similar to the one we just did. Here, though, we have a rectangle instead of a triangle, but the same idea. We have the perimeter. So I'm going to draw the rectangle. I really recommend drawing a figure or a diagram or making a chart or some way to organize your information. So the length of the rectangle is 3 less than 4 times the width. So we're comparing to the width. So the width is going to be just the plain variable. So I'm going to call it x. Now the length is 3 less than 4 times that. So 4 times that, and then it's 3 less. Remember that this less than changes the order, so it's not going to be 3 minus 4x, it's going to be 4x minus 3. Okay, so now we have the length and the width. Remember that in a rectangle, the lengths are the same and the widths are the same, right? So those are equivalent. So if I want to label all of them, I could put an x here, and a 4x minus 3 here, and then I'm going to add up all the sides. So I'm going to have 4x minus 3 plus, I have another 4x minus 3, and then plus x equals, what's the perimeter? 34. All right, now it's a matter of adding up all of my like terms. So I can see I have this, this. So these are all my x terms, right? They're all on the same side of the equal sign, so I'm going to add them up. And then I have these constant terms that are on that same side of the equal sign, so I'll combine those. So 4 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1, that'll give me 10x. And then negative 3 and negative 3 is negative 6 equals 34. Add 6 to both sides. So I get 10x is equal to 40. Divide by 10. So x equals 4. Okay, again, I want to go back to the problem and see what it's asking me for. It asks me to find the length and the width. so I can't just stop at 4. X represented the width, so I know the width is 4. And it's for what? It doesn't give me any unit of measurement. So we're just going to put 4. It should give you some kind of unit of measure, but it didn't in this case. All right, and then the length, we just substitute 4 in for the length. So 4 times 4 minus 3, which would be 16 minus 3, so 13. So the length is 13 units. All right, number 4. A truck rental agency offers 2 kinds of plans. Plan A charges $75 per week plus 10 cents a mile driven, and then Plan B charges $100 per week plus 5 cents a mile driven. So this one is going to have you write out the model for Plan A and then Plan B, and then you're going to find the number of miles that would generate the same cost, so that way you can compare them and then see which would be the better deal in Part D. So this is a problem that, you actually could use when you're comparing plans, like cell phone plans, or like this example, renting a vehicle. So we want to write the model for Plan A first. Here is something that you want to look at. When you're dealing with these linear equations, you have, let's see, y equals mx plus b is a linear equation. If you're looking at this equation, you have an m, which we know is the slope, and we have a b, which we know is the y-intercept. But you could also look at it this way. The slope is multiplied by a variable, right? So the m is multiplied by x. That means m is associated with a variable cost, okay? So the value of mx is going to vary depending on what you have for x. So that's a variable cost, whereas b is a constant. It's not multiplied by a variable, so this is associated with a fixed cost. So when you're dealing with examples that have something that varies, like in this example, it varies by the mile, but then you have a standard $75 fixed cost, you would think of your y equals mx plus b in this way. So let's look. We have Plan A charges $75 per week. So that does not vary, right? For a 1 week rental, you're going to be charged $75, period, right? For that whole week, you're charged $75. But then you're charged an additional amount per mile driven during that week, okay? So that is the variable cost for a 1 week rental. So we have y equals, so the total cost for the week will be 10 cents a mile plus $75. So the 10 cents is the variable cost, and the $75 is a fixed cost. And again, this is if you look at the 1 week rental. Okay, Part B is write the model equation for the cost of renting a truck with Plan B. So this one has a fixed cost of $100 for the week, but it has a variable cost of 5 cents per mile. So in this one, we'll have 5 cents per mile plus the $100 fixed fee. Okay, so now we want to find the number of miles that would generate the same cost for both plans. So if the cost for A is, if the cost for A is this, right? So Y represents the cost of Plan A for 1 week. So that's what y represents in both cases. The x represents the number of miles driven. So if this in the red box, is the cost for plan A, and this is the cost for plan B, and we want to know the number of miles that would generate the same cost, that means the cost will be equal. So we're just going to set those two equal to each other and then solve the equation and see when it would be equivalent. Okay, so to solve this, we want to move our x's to one side and the constants to the other. So I'm going to subtract the 0.05x from both sides, and then I'm going to also subtract the 75. So I'm moving my x's to the left and my constants to the right. So this will give me 0.05x is equal to 25. Okay, and so now we just need to finish by dividing. So 25 divided by 0.05 is equal to 500. So divide by 0.05 and we get x equals 500. Okay, so if they drive 500 miles, the plans are the same cost. So it doesn't matter which plan you choose. Okay, so if Tim knows he's going to have to travel 300 miles, which plan should he choose? So we know there will be a difference because 500 miles, it'll be the same cost. Anything other than that, it'll be a different cost. So to figure out which one he should choose, just plug in 300 for each x, and then you can find that out. So for plan A, 300 miles. So y will equal 0.10 times 300 plus 75. Okay, so 0.1 times 300 is 30. And then add 75 to that, you get 105. So plan A would cost $105 if you're going to go 300 miles. Plan B, y equals 0.05 times 300 plus 100. So 5 cents a mile times 300 is $15 plus 100, that'll be $115. Okay, so assuming Tim wants to save money, he would pick plan A.